Hello everybody, this is Wes, and welcome to the show. I'm obviously painting a portrait of this cow. I've got the reference photo on the left, and so we have a direct, comparison. I'm starting out obviously with a sketch using a China marker, just to lay out roughly where everything goes. I usually try to fill the frame of the canvas as much as possible with the subject matter. Depending on the subject matter, sometimes like with landscapes, you're kind of capturing the whole, landscape, so the frame zooms out. But anytime you have a single subject that you're trying to capture, it's often a good idea to zoom in, to cut out anything unrelated. And you might notice in the sketch it's not exactly right. That ear on the left is a little too shortened, probably. It's probably going to go off the edge a bit more. But all this is kind of the underpainting. And I started off with a blue canvas for no other reason than to get rid of the white. Again, it's not required. Sometimes I just start in with the white canvas, but more often than not I'm using a pre-painted background. For one, it tends to peek through the finished painting in places, and for another reason, as you're painting, it kind of alters the way that you're painting, and it gives you new ideas for color choices that you might not have picked had you stuck with the white. And for instance, in this painting, some of that blue will definitely show at the end of the painting, and will influence how I paint it, and I'll point that out later. But yeah, so after the initial sketch in pencil, then in black paint, I kind of go back through with painting in the background, getting more of that local color of the green, more of a yellow green in this case. Kind of using that as a way to bring out the cow, like to isolate subject matter from the background. And this is the part where adding that orange, which is the complementary color to blue, you could see the immediate, I don't know how to say it, vibration that those two colors give to the eye when put close to each other like that. It just creates a pleasing look. And so as I'm painting, I'm kind of keeping in mind that dynamic, and trying to keep some of the blue around to complement the orange of the cow. Each time I go in with a new color, I try to use that same color throughout the painting wherever I see it. It's a good way to make sure you don't forget parts of the painting or have an unbalanced look. One thing I didn't consider, which is generally a good idea for people to do when painting, is the overall values of these colors. So in other words, how light or dark everything is, and how that relates to each other. On the left side of the face, as we're looking at it, there's that bright highlight that defines that side of the face, and it's set off nicely with the darker, although not very dark, but darker than the highlight body of the cow. And on the right side, it's not quite as defined. That grass and the cheek, for instance, on that side of the cow are very close in value. If you squint, they kind of merge together. So it's something you have to kind of think about, if not before you paint, then at least as you're painting, is how to differentiate between especially the subject matter and the background. If not, you get more of a pattern that your eyes can't quite make out, where the cow begins and ends, that sort of thing. And it's something I actually didn't realize until as I was going into the final stages, and I solved it by just outlining the cow slightly. So if I were a more, academic artist, a more fastidious artist, I might sketch out kind of a value study maybe, to kind of just in pencil maybe, or ink, or just in paints in general, just to see that everything coordinates that way, where we could tell where the cow ends and the grass begins, for instance. Looking at the painting now, let's kind of evaluate where we are, what I'm doing right and what I'm not. It's very messy. For most people that doesn't work as well. For me, I don't mind it. It's kind of part of what I expect to see. I've used that white China marker in one stage there to redraw and to find the edges again. And parts like the shadows on the face and above the eyes they're not right as far as what the image is. But again, it's not. This isn't a commission painting. It's not I don't have to make it look like this particular cow. I'm really just going for the cow look in general, kind of a generic cow painting. In other words, it doesn't matter exactly what it looks like. I just want to make sure it looks like a cow. So I'm exaggerating the lines a little around the nose, and just coming up with something that I like. So here I'm kind of finding that edge using that highlight. And I notice, there's no highlight on the right side as we're looking at it of the face. So that's a potential problem again with making sure we can follow the shape of the cow's face. Since I've got that white on the brush, I'm kind of going back through and finding all those light highlighted spots and defining them a little better. I've also got a fatter nose in my painting than the photos shows, but again, it's not critical for me in this application. I tend to find the painting as I go. I don't know, I do have a kind of an idea in mind, but that idea always changes as I'm doing things on the canvas. Sometimes a better idea comes to mind, like leaving the blue of the cow's face, for instance. That wasn't something I'd planned to do, but once I started in on it, I realized that that's a kind of a cool look to it. And so that blue kind of becomes kind of a shorthand in the eye to shadow color on the cow. So here I'm trying to make the grass lighter than it actually is, just to offset the face of the cow. So that's one solution I thought might work. I think I go back and darken it a bit, but it does help a bit. Also helps with the bottom of that ear on that side, which is close to the grass in value. I mean, you can set off things with hue as well, of course. You have green versus blue, or green versus that brown of the ear. And that's fine, but an even better thing would be to change the color and the value. Again, if you want the subject matter to stand out more and be more pronounced in the painting. I'm kind of playing off of that blue idea and using a darker shade of blue in some parts of the shadows and the dark places. After the fact, I realized I didn't pay enough attention to the shadows and sunlit areas. For instance, on the bridge of the nose, there's that highlight that casts down on the nose, separate from just the side, the very profile of the cow. There's that lighter fur that I could have played off of, because that really can help a painting a lot, is to pay attention to the shadows and the highlights, and to get those exactly right or close. I got the general idea in place, but not the more specific parts. So that's kind of one regret I have that would have helped the painting out a little bit. At this point, I'm still kind of experimenting on how much of the blue to leave and how much to cover up. And I think I even add blue to the white parts, just because it's in shadow and I very frequently step back from the canvas to get an idea of the overall look. That's the main important thing in my mind, is how the painting looks, not whether it's conforming to the photograph, unless it's a commission painting that someone's looking for a specific pet or person, that sort of thing. If it's just an animal, for instance, I'm just focused on getting the essence of that animal captured on the canvas. I'm pretty happy with it at this point. It's pretty much done except for the details, and I think what little details I'm going to be adding here is, I'm not sure if I even got it on camera, but I'll be going back in with a fine liner brush just to add some little bits of hair here and there, and some of the maybe creases in the fur of the body. And yeah, just to add a little of that fine texture, but not enough to. I don't cover the whole cow with it. Oh yes, here I'm adding that outline, which I think is kind of the part that just finishes it for me. That's what I needed to see the cow as more of a graphic image, like just to set it off from the background more. And here we have the finished painting. Thanks a lot for watching. Leave a comment below, click like, subscribe. See you next time.